just look at Instagram while I wait for you. This part's going to be edited out anyways.
Yes. Or not. Maybe not.
Who knows?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wrestling Hour with the Brewd. I am Bud Robinson, as always, and to my right is Town. Say hi, Town.
Hi, Town.
Hey, I didn't fuck
You
it
got
up
the
this
intro
time.
right. I'm just happy about that. Just happy about that.
It's too bad that Leon isn't here to see it. So today we're going to be talking about the eponymous Brewd that
How it all came together.
you all keep hearing about on this podcast, and how we became the greatest tag team the WWA ever had.
Yeah, that's saying a whole lot, but
I don't even think that's controversial.
so like a little, I think the best place to start is kind of the point where we had, where we thought of these characters.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, because I had, this is a long time ago, I think we were freshmen in high school and I came up to Town Drunk. Basically, we had three characters. We had our main guy, our kind of mid-card guy, and then our jobber guy.
Yeah.
So the jobber guy is just somebody who loses. So we all had to come up with jobber characters, and this is what we came up with. I'll let you go first about Bud Robinson.
So Bud Robinson, so I too, like our dear leader, was very big into ECW, and I loved what they were doing with Al Snow. And I was like, I want to do that. So Bud Robinson was pretty much a ripoff of Al Snow. Not a great one, not a great ripoff, but a ripoff all the same. And the name Bud Robinson was from, I think I touched on this before, but I got it from a random name generator in a wrestling simulator. Like a really, really bad one. It wasn't even one of the good ones. It was just like it was crap. But I feel like I had a title, not an actual. Again, ECW. I was like, Taz has the FTW title, so I either had the idea or actually went through with having a jobber title.
You went through with it because I remember that, and you made it out of like shingles.
Did I?
Yeah.
I didn't think I was that crafty.
It was quite the sight to behold. Yeah.
So yeah, that was him. Yeah, that's right. Because there was part of it that wasn't covered with paper and like dirt and grass and got stuck to it.
Yeah, it was quite the time. You probably still have that somewhere. It's just.
I hope I do. I don't know where it would be though. What was his role? He was a jobber.
That was his role.
I mean,
he was there to just lose.
Yeah, I think.
And be funny.
That was the thing with Bud Robinson. From the start, he was always just my character to have a lot of fun with. I think my mid-card guy was Prime Time, and I was trying to make him a hardcore guy. And then Shockwave was my main event guy, and Bud Robinson was just like, I don't care, whatever. Which sort of totally worked for his character and the Brewd later on.
Yeah.
And so how about the Town Drunk?
The Town Drunk was, I'm not going to lie to you, I was in the old closet we had that we used as a locker room.
Mm-hmm.
In that little room in the basement, and I found a canteen. And I said, I'll fill this up with water and pretend I'm drunk. That's the origin of the Town Drunk.
I forgot about the canteen.
Don't forget the canteen.
How could I?
So, I mean, I just needed somebody to lose. That's all that really was. And he was like the perfect guy to do it. He literally just was an idiot to lose. That's all he was. But he was funny.
Yeah.
And I knew he was funny, but I just didn't know what to do with him. His role was just to lose. I mean, that's all it was. Canteen solely. Give the Corona prop.
I think it worked. I think it worked pretty well. So then, how about the start of the Brewd? I guess the pre-start of the Brewd. How did that all come about? Let's talk about that.
We had no tag teams. I don't know if you remember that.
I do. We had one.
We had nothing. We had no tag teams. We had Scott Borden and Aaron Douglas, who were both I think also at the time feuding for the world championship in some degree. So like we had no tag teams and we had no legitimate tag team division.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody at the time really wanted to start a tag team. Like nobody was too interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our dear leader had the idea of we can just have these. We can be the champions. They'll mean more if they're on main event guys. But then you're putting 4 belts then, because our U.S. champion. If I'm not remembering this right, they were the tag team champions. Aaron Douglas was a world champion. Scott Borden was a U.S. champion.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And they had all the belts, and I just remember thinking that's stupid. And it works in short term, but it doesn't work in long term. And like he had no desire to make any other tag teams, so we were stuck in this, and we don't have anything. And every character that we were making was a singles. Like everybody wanted to be a singles character.
Yeah.
And then I just remember that Edge and Christian started to get popular, and they became the Brewd.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember joking with you, and I think Rainbow was there too. I'm like, oh, what if we had the Brewd, but instead of BROOD, it's BREWD.
Yeah.
And that was kind of how the whole thing. That was kind of the whole. We started joking about it. You and I did because we weren't doing anything with those characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember we were like just having this bullshit streak where we're just going back and forth like, oh, we can come out of a circle of beer cans instead of fire, like all this stuff. And I remember I'm just sitting there and you're sitting there and it's like, why don't we do that?
Yeah.
You know, we kind of stole it from Edge and Christian, but we took our own. It was a parody in a way for a moment, but I wouldn't say that we in any way at all were even remotely like Edge and Christian.
No.
We were totally our own thing.
I think I think the entrance was pretty much the beginning and end.
And
of
we
our
only did that for a
Edge.
little bit. We only did that for a little bit.
Yeah.
I remember we started teaming up, and we had matches as the Brewd, and it was hilarious.
Yeah.
It was just hilarious, and it worked, and it was so like, it was literally the first time we put a tag team together, and actually, he didn't care what we did, so we just fought tag team matches against other people and won.
Yeah.
But it was like it clicked, and I remember, I remember the day, and this is kind of the birth of the Brewd. Our dear leader he had to go somewhere and he was going to be late to the show. So we were going to do, or he had to leave early or something, but he wasn't going to be there, so we had to do a 2-on-1 handicap match of Scott Borden against the Brewd. And I remember talking to Mike, I'm like, dude, it's a perfect chance, why don't you guys lose? And then you and him can turn it into some heat. He was trying to they were going to break up or something anyways. Mm-hmm. And his response to me was, well, no. That makes no sense. You guys are jobbers. They can't beat us. And I was like, well, but it's kind of a cool tag team. Like, it's hilarious and it's fun to watch. Mm-hmm. And, like, all the guys here watching it like it because it's funny and it works. So we had this back and forth argument. And I don't know if you were part of that. I don't think you were. I might have told you.
Maybe in parts. I don't remember.
But it was literally him and I. We went back and forth for like 4 days. And I played dude, it's my backyard. That's literally what I had to do. And I'm like, it's my backyard. We'll just do it. And he's like, fine, we'll do it. But then you guys have to lose them back immediately. So the plan was we were going to win them that week. And then the next week we came back, we were going to lose them right back. And so we went out there. We had that 2-on-1 match with Borden, and we beat him. I don't remember. Do you remember celebrating? Because I remember celebrating. We celebrated like we won the freaking Super Bowl.
Yeah. Oh,
we were
right,
jumping
right.
around
Yeah.
and screaming. It was just, and
yeah, because he came out with both belts.
Yeah. Yeah, because we won the thing, and then the next week. I talked to him, and the next week he's like, "Well, we're gonna hold off on the tag team thing because I don't think I'm ready to give him back to us yet." and then he just kind of ignored it, and then he quit. So it became, we found our footing right away.
Yeah.
And when you talk about our tag team division, it was the Brewd. It's all we had.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be said for a fair amount of the company's history.
Yeah.
There's a few times where other tag teams kind of took over because we decided to go away from the Brewd.
Mm-hmm.
But it always came back.
Yeah, because we had Jumpstart. I think Jumpstart was the closest thing we had to another, let's say, mainstream tag team.
Yeah.
I think everybody else was like either one and done, or it was a team like the Jacks. The Jacks were just like rotating people, and they were just different all the time.
I think the early thing that we had the Brewd was we had Little George, who was a blue trollish type doll that I don't know whatever happened to.
And that makes me sad.
He was kind of our mascot there for a little bit, and then I think the thing that kind of put us, like, we knew we had something good was the Drunk Itch Project, which was a complete ripoff of the Blair Witch, except we got stuck in one line of trees by garden gnomes. We recorded that on a random day, and it was so stupid, but you watch it and you're like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. Then we just randomly showed up at the ring and then beat the Jacks in like a minute. Then that was our initial feud, was the Jacks.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to have a legitimate tag team feud, but we didn't have any tag teams, and we never quite know who was going to be there. So it was always, well, we'll just make a team called the Jacks and just keep adding random people. Jack up, Jack down, Jack left, Jack right, Jack on, Jack off. I mean, we had them all. We literally had them all.
We did. As clever as we were. but
we were able to run a feud with them where we really didn't run a feud with them. We just kind of were entertaining in our own right.
Yeah.
Because that initial run we had, there was no other teams. There was nothing. It was just a cesspool. And then we went in the basement and decided to wear tie-dye because we were trying to rip off the Dudleys because we thought that was a good idea.
Yes.
And
I still have that shirt.
So do I. We just kept wearing tie-dye because we wore it that one time and it seemed to work, even though it made no.
But I think
it made no sense.
We stole the Devon, get the tables, except it was get the 3D. Is that what it was?
No, usually what would happen is I would say, Bud, get the tables, and you go, okay. Well, there aren't any. Oh, well then get the 3D. So we stole their move too.
Yes, we did do that.
Very terrible looking 3D.
I want to back up just a brief moment here. Do you remember how we wound up with George? Because we had a mascot before George. I had a mascot before we had George.
I don't remember that.
You
just brought him. That's how I remember it.
I brought it was like a paper mache head that I had. Again, I was ripping off Al Snow. I'm not even gonna lie.
No, I remember the head. Yeah.
I brought the head out, and I think I had it for 1 week or 2 weeks, and I left it at your place. And then 1 week, I came back, and you were like, "Yeah, so bad news." That thing got smashed, like somebody had stepped on it or something.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, that sucks." And then I randomly was digging through old toys or something at home, and that's where I found George. I was like, "Oh, we got our guy." So anyway, I just wanted to.
We did also rip off the bloodbath from the actual Brewd.
We did.
Because we would dump the canteen on people, and that was one of my favorite things to do. And the people that got dumped upon were always pissed because it was cold ass water. Yeah, I remember that. I remember people getting really pissed. So yeah, we just kind of wore that tag team division until Jumpstart showed up, and that was really just two guys that were hilarious in their own right. That were not. They were characters. They weren't workers. They were two guys that. They were funny. They could tell a story by talking. They could do things like that. But in the ring, they were pretty bad.
Yeah.
I mean, they just were. They were fun to work with, but they were bad. and they came in and they were part of Metal Militia. There's a throwback.
Yeah.
Because it was
It was you two. It was those two, Hardcore.
and Shockwave.
Was it Shock? Oh yes, it was Shockwave.
And then Hardcore got kicked out, and Shockwave replaced Hardcore with Mike Green, I think. Greenberg. Because that was what it was.
Yeah.
And then we kind of put all our heat behind that faction, and that was kind of our main heel faction. Because I think was Shockwave the world champion then, or was Borden? I feel like you had it.
It might.
Yeah, no, you definitely had it.
Yeah, at one point
you were the champion.
Yeah,
you were the champion because so we had like that little thing, and I think Greenberg was the U.S. champion, so we put all the belts on them, and Jumpstart was the first time that we lost clean, and Jumpstart was the first one that beat us like multiple times in a row. So, and I remember we started we had friction between Town and Bud, and we started fighting, and then we finally, we broke up in the middle of the ring, and then the following week we decided we needed to retire. Do you remember doing the retirement segment with me?
I've been trying to rack my brain on this, and I can't remember.
So it was December, late November, early December.
Okay.
Right before Turn the Page, where we had the band. Okay, and
so it didn't take.
Yeah, no, it didn't take, obviously. But we so Town tells Bud, I got this really good retirement home we could go to. And Bud's like, why do we have to go to a retirement home? So needless to say, we went in my backyard. And I tried to convince you that there was a pool in the backyard. In the middle where the ring was during the summer. You're like, that's not a pool. And you're like, Town, this is where we always are. And then I open the garage and I'm like, here's our room. This is where we're staying. And I laid down on the floor and you're just like, finally you've had enough and you just go, that's it, Town, I'm out of here. You just walked away.
Yes, it was the garage thing I remember. I thought that was part of Drunk Itch.
No, that was our retirement. That was our retirement, and I just remember. I remember we did it. It was actually a really good, well done storyline for us at the time, but we had to because Jumpstart couldn't work. Then we went to Turn the Page '99, and we fought him for the belts. And we were the surprise. So we came back and we were in the basement and we had a ladder that you couldn't climb, but you grabbed the ladder because you wanted the ladder. And we're walking to the ring through the crowd, and we actually had just a crap load of people there. And here's Bud with the ladder walking through, and all of a sudden, this girl gets just thwunk right in the head, and you just kind of, sorry, and you keep walking. I come over, are you okay? I don't think you meant to do that. So we had a ladder in the ring, and we beat the shit out of him. Like, it wasn't even close. And we pinned him and won the belts. And we went into 2000 as the champions. The issue, I think the issue at that point was, well, no, because the issue that was starting was the fact that we had nothing else. And the Brewd was kept doing the same thing. So we had that run from January to, I want to say May, June, where we were the team again, and we just did everything.
Yeah. And
we were Orgasmo's first match, and we had all this stuff going on, and we had that entrance perfected downstairs where we would both put our arms up on the stage and then knock each other off the stage.
Yeah.
So we had all that going on, and we rolled into that summer, and I remember we split them up. And we split them up for a very good reason of, we got to have something else.
Right.
There's more we can do with Bud Robinson. There's more we can do with Town Drunk. So we both kind of went on singles runs. And Town turned heel, kind of. I don't know if you remember that. He wasn't a full-on heel. He was a bumbling idiot heel. But
was that the same time that Bud Robinson was in? We had a tournament or something.
Yes.
Was it? It was like a King of the Ring, maybe.
Yeah, it was around. It was around that time.
Mm-hmm.
It was around. But what happened? We made the decision to split us up because I think we both felt like we should try to do more with these characters,
Mm-hmm.
and we felt like we had enough guys to start throwing some other tag teams out. And then what happened was Rainville and I made Pain in the Bodyguard, who
Yeah.
were just insufferable. The worst freaking characters ever. They were just idiots and they were dicks and they were stupid. But we, you know, we went through and we started running with them, and then Hardcore and Borden left. That was when that angle happened where Gasmo and G-Shock got us out of the company for like that period of time.
Yeah.
And what happened was Townie had to turn heel because Jasmine wasn't able to run the promos fully. Like, I had to feed her lines while we were out there, and I was the one that knew what was going on.
Yeah.
So I just basically made Town a complete and utter idiot wacky. And it worked. I think I was also the hardcore champion. We had the 24/7.
Yeah.
And I lost and won that thing like 600 times. And that was okay. I mean, it was an okay run for us to be split up like that, but we kind of Pain and Bodyguard ran out their welcome pretty quick, and it became pretty obvious that basically they were we got Orgasmo over with them. Essentially, is what we did. They got crushed. They served their purpose. They went away.
Right.
And then we tried to find some other tag teams, and nothing worked. And I remember just talking to you on the phone one day, and I'm like, "What do we do?" And you're like, "Why don't we just be the fucking Brewd again?" And it was like, "Yeah, let's just do that." So we came back and won the belts like the first day we were back together, and then it was just from there on out. It was just, yeah, the Brewd's champs. It's just whatever. We're just gonna keep the belt on them because they're the best team we have.
Right. Yeah.
And we did try to do a Town versus Bud feud. I don't think you remember that, but we did.
I do, and it didn't happen.
That was the same time where we were gonna get broken up by Jumpstart, but we pulled back on that one pretty quick, and it just never. It didn't make sense.
Yeah.
I don't even know if we ever had a match. We might have. I think we did.
We might have before we were the Brewd.
Yeah, but I just like those two just didn't work.
Yeah.
So when Orgasmo joined, Leon, he joined, and we started to do a little more with him, and then we came up with the idea of Leon, and that was a you and I conversation. Because we were just having a joke about how we didn't have George anymore and we should have something. And I'm like, oh, what if you brought your cousin in and we named him like Leon? And then you're like, yeah, and he was just big and stupid. So we brought in Leon, and his character is simple-minded, let's just say.
Yeah.
I think that's the best phrase to use for that. Very simple-minded. And he came in, and our initial plan was, you were calling him Little Leon. And he came in, and Town was just aghast. He's not little, he's huge, because it was Leon. He's like 6'9".
Yeah.
And you and him were supposed to be the funny guys, and I was supposed to be the straight man.
Mm-hmm.
And that initial one, I just remember him climbing on my back and me pretending I had a hurt back and all this stuff. And I remember it took about a week, 2 weeks before it was like, Town is not the straight man.
Yeah.
Town is so far from the straight man. He's chaos. We all kind of filled our role, Leon was oblivious to the world, and Bud was just super naive.
Mm-hmm.
And Town was like just chaos. He was a chaotic guy. He was a chaotic character. And I mean that Leon was a good addition because it made it added something to us, and it started to we expanded the Brewd universe, let's call it, because we had just two guys. Now suddenly we have this new guy to do all these things with.
Yeah.
And within that, we started the lore of the Brewd really grew, because initially it was just we were just two idiots, but now it's like, well, Town lives with Bud and Leon for some reason, and Bud's mom is there, and it's Leon's aunt, and then he had a cousin, and there was like there's so many levels to it, and it just started growing, but we never forgot it. We just kept running with it.
Yeah.
This was also would lead into probably the greatest moment of Bud Robinson's career, when he was a world champion for like 10 minutes.
Agreed.
Which was, that was funny. What do you remember about that one?
I gotta be honest, I don't remember the match. I remember winning afterwards. Who was I fighting? Was it hardcore?
It was hardcore.
Yeah.
It was a four-way. It was Triple G, Shockwave, somebody else I'm not remembering in hardcore. And I got rolled up and pinned like right away, and it was an elimination match.
Mm-hmm.
And I was furious, and hardcore left. And then I had to go in the back, and I immediately had to switch into my Town drunk gear.
Yeah.
And then you won. Then I had to come out and celebrate with you, and then I had to run to the back and change again to change into hardcore. And I remember I came back, and then I beat you right away.
Yeah.
But that was, that was kind of fun. That was a fun one. Did you ever think you would have been world champion?
I don't even think I believed that I was going to be the champion the day that we said we were going to do it.
Because it was so far off.
I vaguely remember that being something we came up with at the last minute. Was that something we planned on? Like, for a while, or was that... I feel like that was...
It was one of those things where we were like... We came down and we had a match, and the match wasn't good. It wasn't a good match. It was a bad match. Like, the guys in it shouldn't have been in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, like... telling you it was a bad match, and you telling me it was a bad match. What can we do? And then you were the one that said, what if one of these guys wins the belt?
Mm-hmm.
And it was around the time that they had the Jericho Triple H thing,
mm-hmm.
where Jericho won the belt, but then they reversed it right away. But that's what we decided to do. And then Bud Robinson was just the smartest choice, because the other two guys in the match were, and I don't remember who was in there besides Triple G, but there was 4 of us. It might have been Rex, but I don't even think it was Rex.
No.
It was somebody that was a lower level guy.
Yeah.
That just didn't belong in a world title match.
Yeah.
But that was just kind of it was a good little segue thing to do. It was fun.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun. It meant long term it didn't mean shit, but it was fun to do anyways.
For Bud Robinson it meant everything. Although I don't think we brought it up all that often. That I was champion for all
once in a while. Once in a while you would.
Yeah.
Well, I was world champion. I remember that. That was good. But we came out of that, and we just started kind of rolling with the 3-man Brewd.
Mm-hmm.
Town and Leon and Bud, and we mixed it up. We didn't really have a free bird rule, but we kind of had a free bird rule, because you never know which two of us were going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know if you remember, but I do. The convenient part about that was we look at the other team, and if one of us was in the other team, which was pretty common, we would just send the 2 that weren't in the team.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that really kind of worked, and our timing with him got really good too.
Mm-hmm.
So like working with him, because you and I tagged with you more than anybody.
Mm-hmm.
We tagged all the time.
Yeah.
And our initial tag matches were really bad, because we didn't know how to work a tag match.
Mm-hmm.
Because we didn't understand getting heat. We didn't understand. We just went in and did moves.
Yeah.
And we didn't know when to tag each other to make sense. But this was the time where that we figured out how to set a matchup, how to get heat, who needs to make the save, who needs to be the damsel in distress, all that. So it just kind of changed the complexion of our tag team situation. It was good. We had some good matches back then. That was when they started, at least.
Yeah.
And then I think the other thing at that time would be our segments really started to.
Oh god, our segments. They got so bonkers.
But back then it was we'd get one, maybe two segments a show.
Yeah.
And it was like we'd watch it back and be like, that was the funniest part of the show.
Yeah.
You know? And we rolled in to our last summer. And we were, or last 2 summers, I should say. And we were, we all were WWE fans.
Mm-hmm.
And we were all tired of the heel commissioner. Because it was stupid. But we were also tired of the face commissioner because that was stupid. The commissioner that picked the sides.
Yeah.
So I remember talking to you. I'm like, we should make the town drunk the commissioner and just have him not care about anything. Literally not care about anything.
Yeah.
And it fit everything we were doing so perfectly because we were trying to go away from. We were kind of trying to beat down our own path, which was the first time we ever really did that. Because a lot of what we did, we kind of copied what we saw on TV, which was, we were kids.
Yeah, yeah.
But now here for the first time, it was kind of like, we can do our own thing. We can have, let's have Town be the commissioner who does not care about anything.
Yeah.
And then our TV shows, quote unquote, became phenomenal because they were just full of the Brewd.
Yeah.
I mean, we were on every frickin' segment. It made perfect sense, and it worked within what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it took away, and one thing I think the reason that last run we had was so good is we had 4 guys in hardcore, shockwave, board, and orgasmo that any one of them legitimately could have been world champion at any time.
Right.
And that belt just ping-ponged.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, we didn't have to deal with an authority figure. We didn't have to deal with anything like that. We just had, yeah, sure, go fight him, whatever. And those 4, because we didn't have, a lot of times we would have the heels work together and the faces work together.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first time we really said none of these guys are on the same page, which led to some cool matches.
Yeah.
We had that Highway to Hell match that you won. Orgasmo, hardcore, board, and shockwave. I mean, we were able to do a lot of stuff off of just having the town drunk as commissioner. And the highlight of town drunk as commissioner would be the time we decided to restart all the belts. And we had to draw names to see who was going to fight in the matches. And I remember we did the U.S. first, and I don't remember who the hell it was. We did that, and then we had to do the tag team. And we plotted this one out. This one was planned out, and I remember it was hardcore and Orgasmo were the first team,
mm-hmm.
and the second team was Nemo and 8 3/4. So I pull 8 3/4 out. 8 3/4. I don't know who that is. Good luck to him. And you're sitting there like, who was that? And then Leon just pipes in, "Down, I think that's your hat size." Which is so stupid, but it was just the perfect. He was the perfect authority figure back then because it was so tired.
Yeah.
And they're still doing it today on that channel. And it's still tired, more so than now.
But that's for a different show.
It is.
No, I mean, like, that the highlight of all of that was, like, nobody had to go behind anybody's back. Nobody had to, like, there was no conniving between the main event, between anybody. It was just like somebody just walked up to town and he's like, fine, whatever, go do it.
Oh, it was great. It was so great. And then Chet Danielson, when he got introduced and he was Bud's friend, Bud knew him. He was in a mental ward, but don't say his first name. Don't call him Chet. Yeah, don't call him Chet Town. And he walks in, "Hey, Chet, how's it going? Chetty bang bang." Just shit like that. And then I think another really important thing that happened at this point was we started to bring more people into it.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had Leon, and then we started to see. Okay, we have Leon. Well, now we got our Rainville constantly did camera for us,
mm-hmm.
so we just started calling him Kevin.
Yeah.
randomly. I think it was you. Hey, Kevin. And we just started calling him Kevin. And then we pretended to be Little John and Usher and somebody else. And he was Curvin. And I held the clock. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I
that
do.
That was so stupid. Then we just started calling him Curvin. It's like, fuck it, let's just call him Curvin.
Was that also the time that you tried to... I think you tried to get me to freestyle.
Yeah.
Because that was right around the time when I had Jay Caesar. And you were like, oh, do a rap. I was like, shit.
We need to do an episode totally on Jay Caesar. Just completely on Jay Caesar.
We're going to have to do that.
He had like 3 matches and 4 raps.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
So we rolled into that last summer, and we were... I mean... We kind of pulled the Brewd out of the ring the second to last summer because Tom was the commissioner, and we kind of did other stuff. So I think the story we told that summer, and I don't know if we did it on purpose or not, was Bud wanted to be a tag team again. And Tom's like, well, I can't do that because I'm the commissioner. I can't wrestle. And it was like this weird back and forth between the two. And there was like a little infighting between them. And we somehow told this incredible story. Then we had Leon turn on the Brewd.
Mm-hmm.
I must also mention that Leon's best friend was a sex toy that was very oversized that he drew a face on and named Floppy.
And a Lemmy beard.
For the record. Needless to say, we had Payne, who we won't talk too deeply about here, but we had Payne who convinced Leon that he should turn on the Brewd. And I remember you had a singles match, and I came out to support you, and something happened, and I wasn't there. And then Leon hit you with Floppy, and you lost.
Mm-hmm.
So then Leon was out of the Brewd, which led to some hilarious Payne Leon segments, though. Those were pretty funny, too.
Yeah.
Not sure if you remember those, but those were fucking funny.
Yeah.
But then we kind of, in a way, I think it was the perfect kind of thing, because we had to have a reason to pull Townie back in. And I don't know that we did any of this on purpose. I think we sort of...
Because a lot of the stuff we did for the Brewd was by the seat of our pants, because that was the best way it worked.
Yeah, but I mean, we told this ridiculous story about how Town couldn't do it, Town couldn't fight with him. Then Leon turned on him, and then something happened, and they were beating the crap out of Bud, and then Town came out and just beat the shit out of Leon and Payne. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of when we went full gear ahead at the. So for our last show, we were going to fight him in a ladder match. In between that time, though, we got rid of Leon, and we started adding more people. We had Brooke had a character in there, like Guinevere or something, that was Leon's girlfriend, and then she was upset because Leon turned on the Brewd. She was there. Jensen portrayed Darius the monkey.
I remember Darius.
Darius was hilarious. He sat there and pretended to be a monkey, and then every time Bud would be like, "You know that's not a real monkey, right?" Yeah, it's just some guy I found, but it keeps me happy. So there
Darius
was a lot
was just like, oh.
He pretended to be a monkey. That's all he did. But we had such a it was such a wild cast of people that we were using at that point.
Yeah.
And we just were able to, I feel like we understated the number of wild matches we had had as the Brewd. Like we defended those titles every weekend for a long time.
Yeah.
We beat various renditions of the Jacks.
Mm-hmm.
We also once beat the Fat Fucks.
Mm-hmm.
And we had. It was just an odd. The middle section of the Brewd was like everybody else is trying to make a tag team, and you give them a shot, and it's just kind of like, it's okay, but it's not that good.
Yeah.
So we really did hold up the whole. We were the tag team division. That's just not us being cocky. That was literally we were.
We didn't have, as you said before, like we didn't really have a lot of people who wanted to be a tag team.
No.
Like not a long-term one.
No, and then I think the other thing was we got early on. we understood each other's characters and we understood the timing of what we had to do,
Mm-hmm.
and we could play off of each other really well. That was super helpful. So the comedy was spot on. Because they're both idiots. Town and Bud are both idiots, but they're idiots in two completely different ways.
Yes.
But the way it just plays off each other,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was freaking fantastic. It really, really worked. We went into that last show, and fought for the tag belts for the last time. And we had a match with Payne and Leon that I thought was pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't bad. It wasn't the best ladder match we ever had, but I think it told the story really well, which I think is more of what the Brewd did than have like banger matches. Because sometimes our matches were not that good, but they had a good story and there was like good things going on around them. I don't remember all that much about that match.
Yeah, I don't want to. I think at one point I don't either. Like, I remember doing moves off of the ladder, but none of them were very fancy. They were like, flying hammers and stuff like that. It wasn't.
We gave Payne a 3D off the ladder.
Yes.
I remember that. Mm-hmm. That was okay.
Did we have plywood in that match at all?
No, we didn't. It was just a. That match had a purpose, and I think that hurt it in a way.
Yeah.
Because we didn't really go out of our way to make it. We were more concerned with the story we were telling, which was Leon turned on Payne and helped the Brewd win the belts back, and everything was hunky dory in the world again. Because he hit Payne right in the back with floppy, and then we won. I remember the hug at the end we had.
Mm-hmm.
That was the last time we were the Brewd. I remember that. That was weird.
Well, not the last time.
Well, the last time in the ring we were the Brewd.
Yes, last time we were in the ring.
we're still frequently are the Brewd. That was the last match. It was. I think it was a perfect way for them to go out.
Yeah.
I
don't think that either one of us ever strove to make our characters be phenomenal wrestlers.
No.
Like, I didn't introduce new moves. I was always just
I had the same moveset.
I maybe did a drop kick from time to time, but it was always my stuff was always low risk and it was always goofy. Like, those were my two things.
That was the point. They were supposed to be goofy.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, and I thought that match was just perfect. We, we were that tag team division because it's all we had, and I don't know why we never had another tag team that was able to. There's times where I think, like, if Payne or the Bodyguard, if I wasn't the Bodyguard, if somebody else was the Bodyguard, could that have been a good feud?
Maybe. I mean, we could have ran. I think maybe there was some. You saying that reminded me that we might have at one point talked about trying to do that, but by replacing the Bodyguard with Leon.
We did.
Like we were trying to rekindle that same thing.
What we had talked about doing, because Payne and the Bodyguard was so freaking hot. They were our best team, but they were like good and then not. It was like boom to boom. They were and then they fucking weren't. It's the same thing with DGM. They had 2 title reigns in like 4 months, and then they just went away.
Yeah. Because
there was no. Then Nemo went on a completely different route. He got hooked on red pepper, ruined his life. But we never had. I'm trying to remember, because I remember when we did it. Because of Payne and the Bodyguard, we were done. It was time. Like Rainville and I talked about, this is run its course. What do we do? And then the idea, you and I talked, and it's like, well, still got that tie-dye? Let's just bring it back. That was the plan.
Yeah.
And we were both there. Like, Town and Bud were still there. We decided to put it back together. And the initial plan was going to be to... What I wanted to do is I wanted to run... And, come to think of it, I think we actually did this. Is we had somebody... Our dear leader, who came back and wasn't the leader anymore, but he was part of it. He took the Bodyguard spot. And we had a match where we fought Payne and the Bodyguard and won.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it did not have the same feel. It did not have the same effect.
Yeah.
As it would have if it would have cloned me.
I mean, I think you just nailed. I think you just hit the nail on the head. Like, we started so early with the Brewd and did so much with them that at that point, anybody who's going to be a tag team with us, like with the WWA, they're going to have to fight the Brewd at some point. But all of our tag teams have either me or you in it.
Yeah.
So then we can't do it.
And we never had, because I'm thinking of every tag team run we had that was deep, other than Jumpstart, was some combination of you and me and Rainville.
Yeah.
It was either me and Rainville, you and Rainville, or me and you.
Yeah.
And it was never, though I remember I tagged with you once as not Bud Robinson and Town Drunk. And it was really hard because you wanted to do your Brewd shit, but we couldn't do our Brewd shit because we were like, I think we were like Steve and Taboo, if I'm remembering that right.
That could be, yeah.
And we teamed together, and I was like, this is really awkward and weird.
I remember, I think it was in that match, you and I had a pose off. Because our things were, you were knocking off Hollywood Hogan. And I was knocking off Sabu. And so you were like, "Huh," and I was like, "Huh," and like we went back and forth for like, which is classic Bud and Town stuff, right?
But I was in the Brewd, I was in DGM, I was in Pain of the Bodyguard. The Brewd was the most fun by far because it was just the most fucking ridiculous. Pain of the Bodyguard were just idiots.
Yeah,
they were just obnoxious idiots. And then DGM was just the Hardy Boys. And it was just kind of... It was whatever.
It was fine.
It was fine. It wasn't great. That's exactly what it did. But it spawned... It never had the... It had a decent enough build, but it was never... Like, I never would have wanted to see them fight the Brewd.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have they had no personality.
Yeah.
They weren't a personality team. They were more of a jump off this team, you know. And other than that, we did not have any teams.
Yeah.
That's how this happened. That's how we got hot too, though. Because we were hilarious from the get-go. It just never stopped.
Yeah.
Brewd. We're gonna get back to the thing now after that rant. So we shut down WWA. We stopped doing that in about, was it the following spring? We did the Brewd show?
Yeah.
Or was it even that late? It was a hell of a premise. It was funny. It was probably, we were not ready to do it. Technologically, we didn't know how to do it.
Yeah. And
I think it would have been slightly ahead of its time because if it was on now and you could make that into a YouTube show, I think it would be all right.
Yeah.
It was mildly offensive in some regards.
My kid is big into YouTube stuff now, and like I see some of the skits that people do, and I'm like, that's like, we did stuff like that. And I'm not saying they're copying us, obviously, but like,
no.
What you're saying, like, our stuff would have done well on YouTube, I think.
Yeah, and we were just a little too early at it.
Yeah.
The basic premise of the Brewd show was just Bud came home from college, and no one cared. And Town was drunk and secretly sleeping with Bud's cousin?
I think so.
What was her name? I don't remember her name. There you go. That's a good one. I remember everything. I cannot remember her name.
Did somebody play the cousin, or was that
no.
It was just a name?
It was just a thing in the background that we did.
Yeah. And he was trying to hide it.
Yeah, but he was really bad at it. But Bud was oblivious, so it didn't matter.
Yeah.
The highlights I remember from that were the time Curvin was going on a date, and Bud Robinson told him how to go on a date. Because he was in college. Well, I'm in college, so I can tell you this now. Order the chicken fingers. Girls love chicken fingers. That's all I remember. And I remember being behind the camera and just laughing my ass off at that one.
It had something to do with chickens lay eggs, and so they signify life, and so you're gonna get laid or something like that. It was something.
Yeah,
really
it was
stupid.
really bad. It was a really bad premise.
But I thought it was very clever.
And then I remember that it was that same episode where Town was telling Leon war stories as he drank out of a bottle of whiskey.
Oh yeah.
But Town never was in the army. He was just making shit up. Then Leon took one sip of it and blacked out.
Yeah.
There's also some of those episodes weren't good. Then the other one I remember is when you had the Lemmy beard. You grew out the Lemmy beard, and you were possessed by a Lemmy demon, and we had to do a possession on you. And then the Lemmy demon went into Floppy.
Oh my
god!
God.
A Lemmy beard on Floppy. Fucking Leon, just you got a marker? Give me a marker. Writing, drawing a freaking Lemmy beard on a giant dildo.
Oh God.
That was really. That was kind of the last hurrah out of the Brewd. I mean, it was. I do think if we had done that like 5 years ago and not 15 years ago or 20 years ago, which is about what it was, about 20 years ago. No, I don't know, 15.
No, 15 because it was. It's like 17, I think, because we finished the year before I met Jess.
Yeah. So it was the problems there were tenfold because we couldn't. It was getting harder and harder to get everybody together, and people were starting to move.
Yeah.
Like Leon moved to Milwaukee, and you moved out of state, and then I moved to Ohio. So we all just kind of spread apart.
Yeah.
And that really, I think, was the end of that. It was fun, but I don't know if it ever. Like, I remember 2 episodes of it, and we recorded 6. And those other 4, I
was gonna ask.
went to the Humane Society once. I remember that. With the cousin. Was it Lisa? Lisa Robinson?
Maybe it was Lisa. That sounds right.
That's the name that keeps popping in my head. It's probably totally freaking wrong. But we had her, and we went to the Humane Society to like give dogs Christmas baskets or something. And we came back, and I was just so. It was so ridiculous. That also was the birth of Bartista. We got to talk about that.
Oh my God, Bartista. Yeah.
Yeah. That was that WrestleMania 04, 05?
Yeah, and you thought I had said Bartista.
Yeah, but you said Batista, but it sure sounded like Bartista.
So
then he became a reoccurring character on our shows that wasn't there, that constantly shit in Bud's mailbox.
And his bird feeders, and he still does it now. You know, a big movie star, you would think he would stop, but you want to stay on like fucking bird feeders.
I think that though right there is just how we took these little weird things, and this is we're really good. We're still really good at that.
Yeah,
taking something really stupid, and then turning it into something even more stupid but bigger, and then it's just part. Like I said, the lore. I think that's the one word for the Brewd that I would use.
It is,
lore.
yeah.
There's so much lore. Just of all the things we created, all the things we did, all these little weird things that we can bring up and you just instantly remember it.
Yeah.
You know, these were I think if we would have went on and we would have pursued, I think if we would have went as the Brewd, I think that built-in character, I think that would have worked. I think that would have been, those were 2 characters that could have been on a bigger show.
Yeah.
You know, because we would have fit in. We would have been able to do the things that we did, the comedic timing and all that. Those were the 2 that I always look back on, because I think of, like, if you look back and look at your characters, you know, I never had this envisionment of going and becoming WWE champion as hardcore.
Yeah. Because
if I was going to go be a champion, I wouldn't want to be hardcore.
Yeah.
Because hardcore is like, it's kind of a shitty name. It transpired in a way, in like that whole story is interesting in its own, but that, like, to me, it was never, you know, I'm not going to be hardcore, I'm going to have a totally different name or this or that. But then I think, like, dude, if Vince McMahon called me and was like, I want you to bring the Brewd on TV tomorrow, that wouldn't be that hard.
No.
I just would show up and do it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like all these things that like you think about, like probably with you and Shockwave, Rainville and Board and Leon and Wargasmo, like I would change this, like I would change the name, I would change some form of presentation. Like there's all these changes you'd want to make, and with the Brewd, it was never that. It was just this is what it is.
Yeah,
it's fucking perfect. So you never have to change it. I think that's I think that's the legacy of the Brewd. Really,
for a long while after we were done with WWA, I had thought, you know, I almost kind of didn't wish I'd had Shockwave, because I think that I put a lot of effort into becoming a better wrestler as Shockwave, and maybe working on the character, but like the story, I feel like we were less. I'm not sure how to say it. Like we were less sacred with the Brewd. Like the stuff that we did with the Brewd, we just kind of threw stuff at the wall, and it almost always stuck because that's just the chemistry we had. But like Shockwave, you
were afraid.
I had.
You didn't want to look.
It was.
You never wanted to look bad.
Yes. Yeah.
And that was what. That's exactly what it was, because we all had egos, and that's why it was. Sometimes it was hard when you got those four characters together. Who's looking bad here?
Yeah.
Nobody ever wanted to look bad.
Right. Yeah.
And that was hard, and it was. I don't like, you know. Like as a Nemo, I fought Orgasmo, and he crushed me in a minute and a half. I didn't give a fuck.
Right.
Because Nemo was another one of those characters where I was like, whatever. But had that been hardcore, I never would have done it. Well, you can't do that to hardcore. Or like sometimes, you know, you'd want Scott Board to do something, and Rainbow would be like, well, why would Scott Board do that?
Yeah.
But if you asked him to do it as like Triple G, oh yeah, okay, I'll go do it, no problem.
Yeah.
So it definitely was, but I don't want to say anybody had an ego.
Right,
because
right.
I don't think we really had egos necessarily, but we did have this like, it was sacred.
Yeah.
This is my top guy. This guy needs to be perfect.
We need to view this character a certain way. Like Shockwave needs to look like the sleazy dick.
Yeah.
And we can't do anything that changes that. Whereas like Bud Robinson, like we did all sorts of crazy stuff with him, and his character stayed the same, but we never. I don't think I ever at any point in time said, no, I'm not doing that because Bud Robinson wouldn't do that.
No, because but I think that's part of why the Brewd worked.
Yeah,
and I think that's part of the reason that they stuck around. I think that's part of the reason. If you look back on it, the more entertaining pieces of our company tended to be our tag team division, because the Brewd kind of set that precedent.
Yeah.
Of, well, fuck it, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You know, and even like Pain in the Bodyguard, same thing. I didn't give a shit what happened to the Bodyguard.
Right.
He was an idiot. Or DGM, like, whatever, they can fucking lose. I don't give a shit. This guy, I'm wearing long underwear in the middle of the summer. I don't give a fuck. I look like an idiot. You know?
Right, yeah.
But then you look at, and that's a really good way to put it. Like, with hardcore, it was, we gotta look good. We gotta look good. And that became, we couldn't cut a funny promo. We couldn't do that. We had to be so serious, and sometimes we took ourselves too serious.
Right.
Which is why the Brewd was so... But I do think that last summer that having Town be the commissioner took all the seriousness out of everything.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the seriousness was in the ring, and we had better matches, and I think we were just more comfortable with it too.
Yeah.
You know. But I think that's the legacy of the Brewd. It's fun.
Yeah.
And it worked, and it was fucking entertaining.
It was.
You know, I can't tell you how many times I'd watch stuff back. Like, I'd watch my matches back, and I'd be like, oh, that kind of sucked. Or you'd be mad about something that wasn't perfect. And then you watch back to the Brewd segments, and it's just like, that was freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
You know, and especially at the height there with Leon, when those last 2 summers, when it was like Leon and I and you, we just freaking never told one another what we were gonna do.
Yeah.
We just pulled out random things. Like the time Leon pretended to have a pierced nipple. And you just looked down and you were broke. That's what we were trying to do. We were trying to make each other laugh. But then you watch it back and it's like, holy shit, this is just entertaining.
Yeah.
You know? It was good. It was something totally different, totally unique. I think for that, I think the one thing I remember about that more than anything else is the Brewd. I think if you say WWA, I think Brewd.
I think the Brewd, yeah.
I think we tried so hard to make these main event characters the most important thing. And we tried and tried and tried. Like, you wanted Shockwave to be the only thing out of WWA, and I wanted Hardcore, and Rainville wanted Board, and Leon wanted Orgasmo. And while we tried to get those four to be like the top level guy, the Brewd just kind of was, and it was so much better.
Yes.
It was so much better because it just never took itself too seriously.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, like I said, I think if we could walk onto wrestling TV tomorrow as the Brewd, and we'd be just fine.
Yeah, literally. I think so. Yeah.
Literally would be just fine. Because we could go right back into those characters in 20 seconds. Because they're like a weird part of us.
Yeah.
You know? So it was just, that's the Brewd.
A weird
that's
part
the
of us.
Brewd.
I think we should get that on a shirt.
Should we sell that shirt? We will sell two. One to me, one to you. I'm disappointed Leon didn't come, because I'm sure Leon would have had a lot of good input on this one.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming he fell asleep.
Undoubtedly.
So.
Oh, well.
Yeah, sorry, Leon.
All right.
We'll get his Leon input later at some point.
Yeah, and we can dub it in. Put fart noises in or something.
Fuck that. We're not doing that. We're not doing that.
All right, fine. So I guess that's a wrap. Unless you have anything else.
That's a wrap.
Okay.
That's all I got. So we talked a lot about it. You know, I mean, this is one we can revisit if we need to. I mean, this is...
I imagine we will.
We can sort of pickpocket things and go through... Well, not pickpocket. You know what I mean. We can pick things. Cherry pick. Pickpocket. Fuck it. Let's pickpocket.
Pickpocket.
Sounds good.
Why not? Yeah.
Pounds down for it. Whatever. But, yeah, we can come back to this. There's other things. The Brewd is just like the WWA one where you're trying to talk about everything all at once. And there's so many pieces that happen because we literally were there right away.
Yeah.
And we never went away.
No.
Even when we went away, we didn't go away because in the back of our mind, we're pushing this team now, but we still have
we're gonna be the Brewd. Like there was always that. Yeah, the Brewd broke up, but they're not broken up. They're coming back.
Nah, we'll just bring them back. It'll be totally fine. Yeah, that's all I got, bud.
All right. Well, with that, we'll call this a wrap. And this is Bud Robinson signing off. And Town, you want to say your goodbyes?
Goodbye, Town.
Leon, you want to say your goodbyes? No,
oh, wait, he didn't fucking show up.
Jerk.
Dickhead. We love you, Leon.
Yes, we love you, bro.
Perfect way to end it. Right there. Put that last part in there. Brr, brr, brr.
Oh, it's going
Close every show like that.